Hey everybody, it's Brody from Brody's Garage. It is episode 47. Today is September 24th, and I want to apologize right off the bat. It's been about 3 weeks since my last episode. I feel like that's been an eternity. And I did get a few things done since then, so let's dive in and I'll talk about them. Probably the biggest development and thing that I'm the most proud of is that I finally got my hood vents installed. Now, these were done by a guy that I found on Instagram. Actually, another Nova guy had a set of these. I said, "Where'd you get those?" And he pointed me to this guy named Frank Villa. And I contacted Frank. He builds really nice stuff for 69 Camaros. That's sort of his forte. But these are kind of a universal mild steel vent, and I grabbed them in my Nova, and I just love them, and they really helped out with keeping the underhood heat under control. I think my intake air temperatures dropped at least 20 to 30 degrees just by installing these. So really happy with the look of them and the fit, and I'm going to take you now back in time to show you how this all unfolded. Okay, one of the things that is quite obvious about driving this car in the Las Vegas summer heat is that the heat is just magnified, and all of that stuff under the hood, especially that guy right there, just generates an insane amount of heat, and it gets absorbed into the intake manifold, and that intake air temperature is 185 degrees, and the water temperature is 200 degrees, and we got these pipes here which are like 1,000,000,000 degrees. And so I'm gonna go ahead and prepare to sort of rough these in. These are those hood vents that I got from that guy from Skunk Works. And what I've done is I've kind of taken a look at where these things are going to live, and we don't want them to come down and hit anything. They hang down about 1.1 inches below the sheet metal deck there. I don't think there's going to be a major problem, but I'm going to put them back. You can see my little tape marks here. They're going to end up sitting, if you would imagine the bottom of this, it's going to end up being somewhere in that general vicinity right there. So that should help to alleviate some of the heat generated by the turbo and the downpipe. So what does that look like on top? If I were to close the hood, they're going to be somewhere in that area right there. Well, they're going to be exactly in that area. If I were to set this guy back on top, kind of rough that in, we're looking at something like that right there. Okay, and the other cool thing about this, where I put it, you'll see there's a big side panel here. If it all goes well, that side panel should tuck right inside this ledge right there. So if I come straight in with that, I can actually use this as a place to anchor that side too with my welding. So, and unfortunately, it's going to have to also cut out some of the reinforcement right in here. So that's what we're looking at right now, and I'm going to go ahead and get the car kind of blocked off, protect my glass and everything, throw something over here, and I'm going to cut my hood open. Okay, there's the first hole. It's pretty good. I did kind of make a little bit of a boo-boo. I mean, very, very close. Inside the layers of the hood, there is a metal brace that is sandwiched in there, and that is where the hood hinge mounts to for reinforcement. I sliced into it ever so slightly. You can see down in there I cut into the bracket. I'm gonna have to weld that up as well. And let's see if the scoop fits in there. It should. I'm gonna start back here, and it might have to be kind of wedged in there a little bit. Let's try this. All right, so there you have it. Need to do a little bit more trimming in the back corner here. It's still lifted up and it's a little tight, but I'll do some more massaging, and then let's take a look at the underside. Okay, there you have it. Yeah, I think this is gonna work out. So like I said, the side of the vent, the metal of there will kind of, weld along there, and I can grind that down a little bit to make it look kind of flush. But yeah, I think it's gonna serve its purpose well. Look at all that daylight coming through the hood now. And that should give me a place to let out some heat. Okay, there's my first of 2 holes that I've cut in the hood. And of course, as you can see, the hole has to extend down through the inner layer of sheet metal. And I did sort of encounter a little bit of an issue with that. I was just a hair too far to the outside. As you see there is this thicker reinforcement plate where the hood hinge bolts up through. And the edge, or the outer edge of that there, is protruding just slightly past my hole. So if I had shifted the entire thing over a 1/16 of an inch, or maybe an 1/8 of an inch, I would have cleared that entirely. As you can see, I actually cut right through the flange of it, so I'm gonna have to weld the back side of that up. But I went ahead and I sort of massaged the hole a little bit wider, and I did get the drill to fit in there. I just kind of have to lay it in against the hinge first, and then, whoops, this way, and then kind of pop it down in there. And it fits pretty flush right now. Now then, the next step is going to be to make this completely flush with the outer skin. So right now it's sitting above the outer skin, which I don't want. What I would like is for this to be completely flush with this. So what that means is I'm going to have to take this back out. I'm going to have to step or flange this lip around here. Now I've got a stepper flanger tool here somewhere. Now I don't know if this is going to go in deep enough, but right there is my flanging tool. And what that would do would be to create a lip that this would step down so that that could sit into. I just got to look at the depth of this and measure the thickness of that, or the width of that flange there. And then I guess go around this entire edge so that I can get that to drop down in flush, and then I'll weld it in, grind it down, file it, etc. This is where I'm at right now. Let's continue. All right, an update. After speaking with some guys on some forums and with the maker of the hood vents, I'm gonna go ahead and cut that hole all the way to the outer perimeter of the flange of the vent, and that'll allow the flange to drop down in there and sit flush. And I'm gonna butt weld it. So I'll just, I'll keep the retaining reinforcement. Forget it. You see, in this world, there's 2 kinds of people. Those with vacuum leaks and those with cigarillos. All right, this car has driven me to take up smoking. Not because I enjoy it, but because I'm trying to find a vacuum leak. At least I think that's what I'm trying to find. This thing's got this crazy whistling high-pitched sound when I'm driving, and it's only under just the very slightest of throttle movement. Only part throttle, light load conditions when you're cruising. And my first thought is vacuum leak, and I searched on the internet, easy ways to find vacuum leak. Used to be you take starter fluid or something and spray it when the engine's running. I don't think it's the best or safest way. And somebody came up with the idea of taking a cigar or cigarette, taking a puff of smoke, and blowing into one of the vacuum lines and seeing if it comes out or escapes somewhere else. So thought I'd give it a try. Let's find out. Okay. So I got one of the main vacuum lines disconnected right there. That goes into a T, which goes into a Y, which goes into the fuel pressure regulator, goes to the back of the intake manifold as a source, and then it also feeds the blow-off valve. So I got all kinds of things tied together. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna take a big mouthful of smoke. Aha! See that there? It's leaking out of that fitting there. Let's take it off and see what it looks like. Okay. Pulled this vacuum line off, and you know, this is the first time I've ever used push connect fittings on a car. But I will say, if this thing will focus, the end that I cut there is a little rough. Definitely some jagged stuff going on, not very even. Same on the other end. I'm gonna go through all these lines, pull them off, and I'm gonna give these like a little cleanup sanding and try it again and see if it fixes it. Okay, 3rd time's a charm. I think I got it. It just needed to be pushed in a little bit further. That's it. No more leak there. Well, I will say that just cutting the holes in the hood has lowered the air intake temperatures by at least 30 degrees. Those temps were over 180 last time I drove it. I think they were even approaching 200 degrees. I can't prove that, but that's my memory, is that I saw that at 200 at some point. Anyway, so that's an improvement. It's one of the hottest days too. It's like 100 and something degrees out right now. So I'm putting it to the test. Made several passes, traffic driving. It's creeping up, but it hasn't gotten above 158 now. Well, we beat and we've ground, we welded on this hood, and it is now ready for some filler. And Al is back today to mix up some filler and spread it on there. And we've also done the underside of the hood too, and tack welded that and kind of smoothed it out a little bit. So let's see if we can get some filler and some primer on this today. Okay, we are at the final stages here before we put some primer on it. All right, well there it is, my friends. A vent louvered 67 Nova hood with a fresh coat of epoxy primer. As mentioned before, the epoxy primer does not hide stuff, it kind of highlights it actually. But it soaks in and offers more adhesion and rust protection, so it's good. It matches the rest of the car. And now it's time to bring that in and go watch the Buffalo Bills win the game. So in my quest to cure all of the rattles in this car, one of the places that I didn't think about was these little pockets down here in the lower rear quarter panels. There's a little access hole there on either side, and stuff can fall down through the trunk floor pan. There's a little gap between the floor pan and the quarter panel itself where stuff can slide down. And as I recall, there was a couple times throughout the build where stuff would fall down there. Well, so today, these are the items that I was able to fish out with a little magnet. We have a sleeve from the leaf spring bushings, which I used to make my rotisserie brackets. So I think the whole kit was inside the trunk at one point, and there's the silicone lubricant for it. There's a shim, which I believe was for the deck lid that was never bolted in place. There's some wire feed, there's a bolt. And so those are just some of the items I was able to fish out. There might be more crammed back in there. I will continue to look, but a little bit of progress. Now, I'm no expert on rear ends. I do know that I like them, but this is a Ford True Track differential, supposedly. First observations is that when you put the car in park, so the drive shaft is locked, right? The differential will still turn, and when I turn the passenger side wheel, the driver's side wheel spins the opposite direction. So they go opposite of each other. And then there's this amount of slack. If I go here and I move this thing back and forth, I've got that much movement before the drive shaft turns, give or take. And of course, there's all that clunking. Now, to me, most of the clunking actually sounds like it's coming from the the output shaft of the transmission. If I get underneath here, and again, the car is in park, so the drive shaft shouldn't be turning up in the front. And if I get up here and kind of get my hand on there if I can, let's see. There's quite a bit of movement up and down with this output shaft here. I don't think it's the U-joints, because I don't really see any movement between the joints. If I get in there, let me go. A little tough to do with the phone in one hand. Quite a bit of movement there. Then if I go back here and turn the wheels, you really get sort of a noticeable amount of slack. Some of that is play between the axles and the ring and pinion, I guess. And so you can see how much movement is taking place before the pinion actually even turns. So that's this, moving this wheel back and forth. And we've got quite a bit of movement before that even turns. And then I guess that energy is transferred up here through the drive shaft to there. And I can hear it in the output shaft of the transmission. So I don't know, I'm gonna take this to a driveline expert, get a second opinion, but it just feels like there's an awful lot of slop going on here. All right, it is time to attack this spinning wheel stud here. As you can see, I've marked off the one that is spinning. I don't know what it is, but the splines must have just gotten worn out inside the axle flange. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a center punch and I'm gonna drill into that lug there and see if I can somehow break the lug loose from the stud. Well, that actually went surprisingly well. After drilling into this a little bit, and then I took this chisel and just whacked into the lug nut a few times, it must have seated it just enough to where I could buzz this off with my impact gun. So there's the lug nut that came off of it, and you can see that the stud itself is wobbly in there. It's totally loose. So I've just ordered a new set of those, and I've ordered some replacement lug nuts. So anyway, I'll have some extras on hand, but that went pretty well. Now I can take the wheels off, and I'm getting very close to the stage now where I'm gonna take this to Al's shop and we're gonna get this thing apart and start hustling on the body and paint. So now that I got this lug nut loose and that wheel stud is accessible now, I can get the wheels off, which is good because when the car goes up to the shop, it's going to get a set of these gunny wheels put on there, these little shop wheels. I may actually end up using these to get the car aligned as well, because my buddy Bruce said that he couldn't get the laser wheel mounting things to mount on these wheels properly. So we may end up using these. For sure, when it goes to the body shop, I'm gonna swap out my wheels for these so that my wheels don't get banged up or get overspray on them. So those are the gunny wheels that just came in the mail. It's about 750 bucks for the set. They're an all steel wheel with a multiple bolt pattern fitment. They've got a deep offset, so the wheel actually sticks out quite a bit from its mounting surface, from the hub. And it's got an airless solid rubber tire on the outside. So yeah, we'll see how those end up working out. All right, let's talk about some trim. A lot of this stuff I'm looking at for the first time, trying to figure out where it all goes. Some of this is secondhand used stuff that I got, and some of it is new reproduction. These pieces here are all the door panel retaining trim pieces that go inside the doors. So it looks like we have a driver's and passenger door, and then we have the quarter door area back there. These roof rail are for, it looks like, the weather strip retaining pieces here. Not sure which is which, but kind of gathered that this one goes on the passenger side, somewhere up in there. It needs to be screwed in, and it looks like there was a material on the back side of it, some sort of a gasket material or foam, and then we have a channel there for the weather strip. So we got those two pieces. We have the two C trim pieces that go back here, like that, and then, so those are new reproduction. Up here we have, I don't even know what all this is, but I believe these are, okay, that says driver on it, and this one must be passenger side. And I'm gonna guess that this one goes here, somewhere along that edge. Yep, that looks about right. So that goes along there. And as you can tell, that's used, dirty, and got a couple dents in it. That's gonna need to be straightened out and repolished. And as I recall, there are some clips, retaining clips that go inside this channel, and I think they go there. A buddy of mine, Rudy from Modern Performance Classics, had given me some measurements, and that's where I need to drill holes for these clips to go down into. So there's that. These pieces here, I don't know if this is for maybe the A-pillar, and if so, which side it goes on. These came taped together, so these two pieces must go on one side and those two must go on the other. And then we also have these pieces of stainless, which maybe they go on there. It probably goes there. It kind of looks like it goes there. And then the C molding, or C pillar, whatever you want to call this, goes underneath it. So let's just see. If I was to set this on there, some of you guys are looking at me and laughing, but I'm kind of figuring this out as I go here. Anyway, I'm going to drop the phone, I'm sure, but I can pretty much tell that that goes there on top of the other piece. So, interestingly enough, we have polished stainless steel here, and we have chrome plated there. So, I guess somehow that works out to match. And then it looks like we have a roof rail drip molding here. So I'm going to assume that that piece goes over the channel. And again, sorry for the sloppy camera work. I'm not really watching the camera at this point. But it would appear as though, yeah, this piece sits on that edge there. And then needs to fold over that edge there. So, all right. And then somehow it must intercept or intersect with this piece here. Not sure which one goes over which, but I'll figure it out. So there you go. And these look like they're the frame, or the front part of the frame that goes up here in the A-pillar for the vent window. So I have to pop up, open the door and take a look to see how that mounts, but as I recall, that screws into the door panel somehow and opens with the door. So pretty severely, well, maybe not severely, but definitely pitted. These are going to have to be completely redone and re-chromed. But structurally they seem pretty sound. There's no major holes in them or anything. Just needs to be completely, I don't know, ground down and repolished. So there we go, there's that. And then we have the top pieces here, which I guess these are called the door, I don't know if they're called the window reveal or top sill plates, whatever they call those. And weather stripping channels. So my goal is to kind of mock this stuff up and test fit it before we go to final paint, because I want to make sure that I drill all my holes and kind of get it roughed in. Same thing with the window trim. This is still a long ways away from being done. But the window glass is going to come back out. I will then retry the trim piece, because I think what's happening now is the molding clips are definitely not in proper alignment. They're pushing this thing out, and I think the butyl tape on the window glass is too thick and it's holding this out further than it needs to be. A lot of work to be done here, but we are getting close to the place where we'll pull this car apart and get it ready for paint. Okay, I think I figured out where this piece goes, and it's pretty obvious that it goes in there, and then that piece meets up with the other roof rail drip molding. So, and I can even see that there's some paint overspray from where a car must have been painted at some point. So that must stick out past the A-pillar about like so. So, okay, so there's that. And then there are these two pieces right here. There's this guy that was taped with this, so that indicates that it must have come out of here somewhere. But I don't know. I don't know where it goes. Can anybody tell me?
all beautiful.
Okay, so it is Saturday. I did the car shows this morning, and right now I am back at Team Ford here in north part of Las Vegas. That's my friend Bruce Daniel back there, and we are getting the Nova aligned, hopefully today. We put it up on the rack, and these were the existing specs when I brought it in. The caster was off a bit, camber. The rear toe is slightly off. I'm going to try to adjust the trailing arm so I can straighten out the rear axle slightly, but overall not too far off from spec. So there's the alignment machine, and in the back he had to pull the wheels off and remove the 3/4 inch spacer to get the wheel to sit in a little bit further so that these mounting bars would get inside the fender well. So to adjust the camber, which is the wheel going in and out at the top, we have these washers here that we've added. We had 2 in there, and now we've got, it looks like 5 in there, and that brought the wheel out to get a 0 degree of camber. To adjust the caster, which is the forward and aft movement of the top of the spindle, we have slotted holes here, so we'll move that, and then the final adjustment will be the toe here, which is adjusted right here. And so this right front wheel here is unfortunately the bent rim. Now 50% of that is my fault and 50% is not. If you recall from a previous episode, we balanced the wheels here and we noticed this wheel was blah, 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 doing this. Well, the day after I filmed that video, I took a buddy for a test drive around my block, and I made a U-turn in an industrial park, and I clipped the wheel right there. And I bent it even further. So it's gonna go back to weld, and we'll see what they're willing to do for me. Maybe I have to pay for a new wheel, I'm not sure. All right, so the main things were the hood vents and kind of sorting out my window trim and stuff and getting all that ready to be shipped off, to be polished and straightened out. I am now at the point where I'm just gonna do a few more things to the car, and then we're gonna take it out to Al's place and get this thing stripped down, get it painted, and then it'll return back here afterwards for final assembly. But basically what we're gonna do in the next coming couple weeks is just we're going to kind of finish up the body work. I'm gonna get these cowl vent things filled in and smoothed out. We're gonna go over the car and do hammering, bending, whatever it takes to get the gaps to line up as good as they can. We're gonna adjust as much as we can to get the gaps very close. And then it's gonna go out to Al's place. We will probably first and foremost put some high build primer on this thing and do an initial blocking and filing of the gaps. Once it's basically roughed in, we will then probably top coat it with a urethane primer, and then it's gonna come apart. Front fenders, hood, wheels, suspension. It's gonna go back up on the rotisserie, gonna flip the car upside down, gonna do some finish welding on some components on the bottom side of the car. A couple things that I'm gonna clean up from previous work. Gonna get it seam sealed, undercoated, flip it back over. We'll finish the blocking of the body panels. We'll get the thing jammed and painted. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, of course, we're gonna pull the engine and transmission out. I'm gonna pull the suspension completely off the car. Those components will go down to get powder coated. While this is all apart, I'm gonna send the third member center section of the rear end to a buddy of mine at Dan's Driveline to have him observe the ring and pinion wear, because the thing is just howling and I'm not really happy with it, honestly. And so I need a professional opinion on that before I talk to the guys over at Curry Enterprises. We got the alignment done today, so the car is driving better. It's going straighter down the road. I still feel like it might need another degree of caster to kick it back further because of sort of a feeling of squirreliness. You know, it's definitely much better than it was before I went in today. The toe is correct, the camber is correct, and the caster is even on both sides, but I still feel like it's a little unstable at speeds, like it's just really touchy. So might kick it back into the degree. The area of concern that I have with that is that the wheels already sit, to me, far back in the fender well, and kicking that back even further is going to move the top of the spindle back, and the wheel is going to set back even further. So I'm not thrilled about that. I'm going to talk to TCI and see what they have to say about that, but otherwise the car is handling well. I've worked out a bunch of kinks and rattles and things in the car, and I'm at the point now where there's not much more that I can do to it mechanically. So now it's time to get the cosmetic stuff worked out, get it back here, engine and trans back in the car, final wiring, sound deadening, which, oh God, I can't wait to do the sound deadening. Here we go. We got 3 boxes of it sitting right over here of Dynamat, and I cannot wait to get the car tightened up because, you know, as I've mentioned probably 100 times already, the car is just a rattle can going on the road. Listen to this. Okay, that's just one of many, many components that are just, you know, banging down the road and vibrating and picking up every road noise and vibration. So looking very much forward to getting this thing streetable, quiet, tamed. I can only say one thing: the power level that this thing is currently making on what I would still call a conservative tune, because I looked again at the timing, and even with the E85 tune, Getty, the guy that did the tuning on this, he's got a lot of timing pulled out under boost. Like you can see the boost go up on the data log, and the timing is going down. So I mean, we are still withholding a ton of power from this car, and I've never had anything like this. That just, it feels like 2 engines. It feels like there's already a 450 horsepower engine in it that's getting you out of the gate, and then immediately you can feel the onset of the turbos kick in, and the thing just sucks you back. It's blowing the tires loose, going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour and hitting the gas, and the ass end is coming loose on this thing. It's an insane amount of power, and I know that there's only room for improvement with further tuning. So do I need it? No. Am I going to enjoy it? Yes, very much. It's an insane rocket, and it's thrilling. Very much pleased with it, and the feedback that I've been getting both on all the forums that I've posted on and the live feedback from guys at the car shows has just been great. It's been almost a year. We're at about 11 months now with this car, and was hoping to wrap it all up within a year. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'll be not too much further, I don't think. So hopefully by the end of this year or early next year, we'll have the car done, painted, put back together, and I don't know, maybe we'll get it, you know, get it on some of the pro touring circuits and get it in some magazines. Maybe it'll go to SEMA one time. Who knows? Anyway, that is the update for today, and I will keep you guys posted. Please like and subscribe to the video. I know you hear this stuff all the time, but it really does help so that you get notified anytime I post something new. Make sure you turn on the little notification thing and have it set to all notifications so that you know when I'm posting stuff. And maybe even some of the music stuff that I do. I just did a couple shows, and they went well, and if I come to your neck of the woods, I'd love to see you at a show. So that's it for now. Tune in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.